The attack happened at the Federal Correctional Institution Tucson, a medium security prison that has been plagued by security lapses and staffing shortages.
That report from correspondent Lisa Dwyer. Olympic runner Oscar Pistorius has been granted parole after 10 years behind bars.
Oscar Pistorius, a double amputee, won multiple Paralympic gold medals. But in 2013, he shot and killed his partner, Reeva Steenkamp, through a toilet door at his home. Pistorius was convicted of murder in 2015. He's due to walk out of prison on the 5th of January.
This is BBC's Daniel Day Simone reporting. More on these stories at srnnews.com.
The following program is sponsored by the law offices of Patrick L. Smith. This is the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. Get ready with your legal questions and call Patrick now. 877-943-9673. Again, that's 877-943-9673. The law office is open. And now your host, Patrick Smith.
Good morning and welcome to another edition of the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. I'm your host, Attorney Patrick Smith, and we will be with you for the next hour. Today is Saturday, November 25th. Hope everybody had a fantastic Thanksgiving Day and Thanksgiving Day week, spending time with friends and family and enjoying the sort of delirium that is the Friday after Thanksgiving, where you wake up and time just seems to have stopped because you have no sense of orientation as to what's going on, what part of the week we're in, because you had a day off the day before and you're not going to work necessarily the day after. So it's sort of a weird time of the year when you get into the holidays and your rhythm is sort of thrown off. But here we are, back live Saturday morning, 8 a.m. to answer your legal question, your constant, your anchor in the turmoil of the holidays, the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. Call in now with your legal questions, 877-943-9673, 877-943-9673. That's your toll-free number to be part of today's show. I'm your host, Attorney Patrick Smith. For those of you new to the program, the Attorney Patrick Smith Show is dedicated to one thing and one thing only, and that's helping you, the listener, answer your legal questions that you have that arise throughout the week. So you're one-stop shop for all things legal. 877-943-9673. That's your toll-free number. You can email me, Patrick at attorneypatricksmith.com, and I'll give out the office line for the early crowd to reach us at the office. That number, 877-754-6764. Again, that toll-free office line, 877-754-6764. Give it a call Monday through Friday, and we'll be happy to help any way that we can as far as setting you up with your complimentary estate planning consultation. Still offering our $75 will, our $695 trust package, still available. Don't plan on changing those rates anytime soon. So again, that office line to schedule your complimentary consultation, 877-754-6764. Starting off today's show, this past week, we had a presidential pardon granted. For those of you who might have missed the news cycle, President Biden this past week pardoned Liberty and Peter the Intern. You know the other turkey's name? He pardoned 2 turkeys this week.
Justice?
Nope, Bell. Liberty and Bell, both pardoned by the President of the United States. And my gorgeous wife had the wonderful idea of talking a little bit about what it is to receive a presidential pardon. So the presidential pardon, of course, lives under the U.S. Constitution under Article 2, Section 2, Clause 1, and grants the president the authority to pardon crimes. But can the president pardon any crime? And you know, it's coming up now, especially with the recent charges against former President Trump about whether or not a president can pardon themselves. It appears that may be something they can do. It's a little unclear in some areas, but there are some limitations to presidential pardons. So the presidential pardon power actually experiences those limitations because the Constitution only grants that ability on federal crimes. So if you're facing state charges, then you cannot pardon yourself even as a president or pardon anyone facing those state charges because it is a state charge. So who could grant that pardon? Well, you need look no further than your local friendly governor, because the governor would have the power to pardon. Now, in the state of Florida, that pardon power lives under the Florida Constitution, Article 4, Section 8, and the governor of the state actually has the power to pardon state charges. And the reason we were discussing this off the air, and I thought it brought into bright line focus, was the distinction between federal powers and state powers. Here's the most powerful person in the world, arguably, the president of the United States. They can pardon a lot of things, but what they can't do is pardon a state charge. Why? That power resides with the states, particularly their executive or governor, to hold that power and that privilege. So a little bit on presidential pardons and gubernatorial pardons in light of the successful pardoning of Liberty and Bell, the two turkeys pardoned by President Biden this past week. 877-943-9673. That's your live and local number to be part of today's show. 877-943-9673. Give us a call now, live and local. Happy to help. All right, let's go to our first caller of the day. Let's go to Sarasota and talk to Vicky. Vicky, welcome to the Attorney Patrick Smith Show.
Well, thank you.
Hey, Vicky.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. How was your Thanksgiving?
Oh, wonderful. Yes.
How can we help you today, Vicky?
Well, I lost my husband in January, and we had separate accounts. So, there wasn't like a lot of probate going on. And especially with him, he basically died without funds, except that he had $3,600 in a bank account, and he had $10,000 of debt, and the debt is on a credit card with the same bank. So it wasn't probated because there was nothing really to probate, but I was wondering if I could ever get the $3,600 from that account, or is it just to the wind?
Well, first of all, I'm sorry about your passing of your husband. That's terrible. And how many years were you guys married?
Like 15.
Yeah.
It was a second marriage.
Oh, I'm sorry again, Vicky. So did your husband leave a will by chance?
No,
Okay.
he did not.
Did he have any children from his first marriage?
Yes.
All right. It sounds to me like potentially you may wind up splitting part of that with the children of your late husband. There's something called the intestacy provisions of our probate code that'll cover how assets not controlled by any sort of testamentary document. And this is an unfortunate situation we see all too often where people don't plan an estate at all. And a lot of times people put it off because they don't think they're going to pass away. And then they leave the family in these sort of tumultuous situations where there's debate and doubt about what's going to happen. More than likely, it's some sort of split there, probably a 50-50 split between you as the surviving spouse and them as the children. But that's after some creditor claims need to be paid. There's some class 1 claims potentially for, the administrator, and then there's funeral expenses. Do you remember off the top of your head what your husband's funeral expenses were?
Like $5,000.
Did you pay that $5,000?
Yes, I did.
Then it's possible, very likely, you could walk away with the entire $3,600 after filing the appropriate petitions and noticing all the interested parties.
Well, that's the whole thing. I'm not going to file any petition because it's not really worth it. I mean, filing a petition would cost more than, my gain, right?
Not necessarily. Not if you file on your own. And then you're just out the filing fee with the county. And if you want someone to point you in that direction and kind of give you a brief tutorial on how you might be able to do that, Vicky, just give me a call at the office and I'll be happy to walk you through that. If you need to meet, we have the Sarasota office there, which is quickly becoming one of our most popular office locations.
Oh, okay.
And we'll be happy to sit down with you and go over the probate process and then continue that dialogue by making sure Vicky has everything in place so that your family doesn't experience what you're experiencing with the loss of your husband.
Well, I do. Thank you.
All right, Vicky. Have a great Saturday, okay?
Okay, you too.
All right.
Bye-bye.
All right, this is the Attorney Patrick Smith Show, and I'm Attorney Patrick Smith. The number, if you want to call in just like Vicky did, it's that easy. Call in with your question. We'll be happy to help you as best we can. 877-943-9673. That toll-free number to be part of today's show, 877-943-9673. And that Vicky's call is a great example. We talked to everyone last week about saying around that Thanksgiving table, bring up estate planning. It's a great topic of discussion. And, Vicky's case is a good example where if someone passes without a plan, there's a lot of doubt and there's a lot of uncertainty during an already difficult time. So having a proper estate plan can go a long way to give your family peace of mind during the time they're experiencing the loss of a loved one. So 877-943-9673, 877-943-9673. Wanted to do something a little bit lighter for today's show, but also still very much sort of topical and legal related. So we are in the middle of football season. Like I said last week, we talked a little bit about football and some of the NCAA issues. So this a brief tether to football, considering what we're about to do. We're actually going to have our first ever Attorney Patrick Smith Show fantasy draft of lawyers. And the criteria for these lawyers were pretty broad. You could either be a fictional lawyer, you could be a real lawyer, it could be any lawyer at all, but basically assembling your team of 5 lawyers that you would want to have. And each member of the Attorney Patrick Smith Show crew, Peter the intern, Joe Weaver, Yumiko, and our newest member, Ryan Hoppy. We're just going to call him Hoppy. And by the way, if you ever get a chance to meet him, stand on a stool. He's like 6'9", or he's really humble about it. It was really funny because I was watching him talk to Peter before the show, and he's like, I'm like 6'8.5", and I'm like, that's just, I don't know why. He's just being humble about it. So, but we're happy to have Hoppy as part of the team this morning. So everybody made their picks. Now we did a random selection to see who the draft order, and all right, so we've got. I'm looking, and we're gonna have some. So, all right, Joe, remind me, what number did you draw? You're number 4. So Joe's 4. Yumiko, you're 5. All right. So that would put Hoppy at 2. All right. So our first pick will be me. That was random as well. I was actually the last one to pick from the coffee mug this morning and picked lucky number 1. So my first choice in the draft will have to be none other than Alexander Hamilton. I think when you go with a guy who, in terms of clout, and not only is in his role as a founding father, but what he did with the financial system in the state of New York and for the nation, and the fact that the guy did the nation's first murder trial and got his client acquitted. I mean, what he did institutionally for the practice of law would make him my number 1 draft pick of all time. Would be Alexander Hamilton. So that's our number 1 pick. Number 2, we'll have to go to Hoppy's list. So let's see who Hoppy picked. Hoppy's first choice. Now this will generate some controversy. Hoppy's first choice is none other than Howard K. Stern. I like how he put the K in there as if we were all unclear about which Howard Stern he was picking, but a licensed attorney nonetheless. So Howard Stern is Ryan or Hoppy's first choice. And I mean, granted, a fantastic radio personality who definitely changed the face of radio, whether you think that was for good or bad. He's still a fantastic influence in the world of radio. And I think anybody who does a radio show has to admit Howard Stern had some sort of effect on them one way or the other. So fantastic choice. And we'll be doing a reverse snake style selection, by the way. So it's going to be 1 through 5. 5 will pick twice, and then we'll go back, and then 1 will pick twice, so on and so forth. Peter, you're up with number 3.
Number 3, I'm picking, to kind of keep in your trend, Thomas Jefferson. He co-wrote the Declaration of Independence, and he was also the youngest practitioner before Virginia's highest score. He was 23.
And the arch nemesis of Alexander Hamilton.
That as well. Well, I guess that would be Aaron Burr.
Well, yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, the largest, I mean, they were on the same political side a lot of times, but they just were heated rivals. Thomas Jefferson and Alexander Hamilton were opposite political parties and lifelong enemies. And that's why, when Alexander Hamilton famously threw the presidency to Thomas Jefferson, the most surprised guy in the room was Aaron Burr. But all right, great pick. Peter the intern's first pick is Thomas Jefferson. All right, we're next to Joe Weaver's first pick. You guys who aren't on the air with us, the controversial picks. All right, Joe Weaver's first. By the way, Joe's personal cell phone. No, I'm just kidding. Johnny Cochran. The famous, if it does not fit, you must acquit. So, Johnny Cochran. Joe Weaver's first choice. And if you want to call in with your fantasy draft pick of a favorite lawyer, fictional or not, you can do so now. 877-943-9673. 877-943-9673. And you can be part of today's show by giving us who you would take in your our fantasy lawyer draft. And Yumiko, the producer.
My first choice was Morgan and Morgan.
Well, no, that's 2 people.
Oh, okay.
So John Morgan?
John or who?
Yeah, I'm going to say John.
John Morgan. Great choice. Great choice. One of the best marketing attorneys ever. I think that's undeniable as
Mhm.
far as what he's done in terms of marketing.
Yeah.
So if anyone says his slogan, you know it. I'm not going to say it. It's my show. But don't say it. No, it's my show. But yeah, no, he's a very recognizable guy who has a fantastic reputation as an attorney here in the state of Florida. So, all right, 877-943-9673. You can give us a call now with your opinion or draft pick in our first ever fantasy lawyer draft. That's round one. And to recap round one, my choice, Alexander Hamilton. Hoppy's choice, Howard K. Stern. Peter the Intern's choice, Thomas Jefferson. Joe Weaver's choice, Johnny Cochran. And number 5, pick by Yumiko, the producer, John Morgan. All right. You know what, Yumiko? There was another lawyer you could have picked and scored some real brownie points this morning, and you didn't do that with your first pick. 877-943-9673. Give us a call now. We're happy to help any way that we can. All right. Next, before we do round 2, we're going to go to, is it Gracella? Hey, Gracella.
Yes.
How is it, Grace?
Yes.
Hi,
How
Grace.
you guys doing?
I'm great. Hey, Grace, I see the subject you want to discuss. There's a lot of families listening, so just be sensitive to that when you discuss this topic, okay?
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
Yes. So, I moved to Florida on December. I really don't want to move to Florida. My husband, he's the one who moved to Florida. I've been on domestic violence for 16 years, living a double life. Telling people my husband is the great, but, in the inside living in pain with my kids. On November 2022, I was living in Texas. That's when he decided he wanted to move to to Florida. I tell him no, I was tired. I tell him I want divorce. He don't want to give a divorce, going through cancer and all that stuff. So the end result, we ended up in Florida. In Florida, April, I went through domestic violence again. He strangulated me, twice. My daughter found me unconscious on the floor. She called 911. The result that he won pretty much find me there.
Hey, Grace, I'm going to cut you off, not because I don't think what you're saying is important. I think it's very important, but I also think we ought to just chat off air, if you don't mind. So,
okay.
Let me give you the office line, okay? I assure you, Grace, this is not me brushing you off. This is just me saying I think this is a conversation we should probably have off the air. So, do you have a pen and paper handy?
Okay.
All right. Then the office line is 877-754-6764. 877-754-6764. Okay. And I'm going to hand you back off to Yumiko, the producer, or Hoppy, whoever can pick up. If you don't mind, Grace, leave your cell phone number and I will call you as soon as I wrap up with the show. Okay.
That'll work. Thank you so much.
All righty, Grace. All righty, 877-943-9673. That's your live and local number to be part of today's show. 877-943-9673. Our first ever Attorney Patrick Smith Show fantasy lawyer draft. So if you want to be part of the show today and chime in with who you think should be drafted, now's the time. You can call in now and let us know which lawyer you would take in the draft. We just completed round 1, so we're off with round 2 and doing the reverse snake style. Yumiko, that means you're up with your second pick in our fantasy lawyer draft. So who is your round 2 pick, Yumiko?
Farrah and Farrah.
Are you just going down like a list of personal injury attorneys? Like, what did you do in your research? Because first of all, you're picking 2 people every time. It's 1 lawyer per round.
Okay, it's I don't know the guy's first name, but yes, I chose Farrah.
One of the Farrahs.
Yes, one of the Farrahs.
Okay.
Yes.
Our next pick is Culpepper Kirkland. It's 2 of them.
Okay. I'll take both of these with my. And the funny thing was, you had 2 picks because you got end of round 1, first one of round 2. Yeah. So you could have done that anyway. Okay. All right. We're back to Joe, and Joe's second pick is Jay Sokolov. Jay Sokolov will be Joe Weaver's round 2 pick. And that brings us to Peter the Intern with his round 2 pick. Round 2, Peter the Intern.
Picking Heather Dunbar from House of Cards.
Heather Dunbar from House of Cards. That was the
presidential candidate and the Solicitor General.
All right.
That.
So 30 seconds. Why'd you pick Heather Dunbar?
Practiced constitutional law 20 years, and then also helped with prosecuting, I forgot what his name is, but for money laundering, and got him to resign from the presidency. Seems like a bulldog attorney is what I want on my team.
You really like House of Cards, it sounds like.
It's a great show.
Okay, all right. That was great-ish. The last season was sort of, yeah. 877-943-9673. That's your live and local number to be part of today's show. And next we're to Hoppy's round 2 pick, Gloria Allred. Hoppy, you're killing me. It's like, so Yumiko, who just like Googled personal injury attorneys and then just made her list. It is fantastic how Hoppy, everybody went completely different directions with this. It was like Hoppy woke up and said, I'm going to pick the most controversial lawyers I can. Gloria Allred, a famous, well, I guess we would say attorney for celebrities, or a celebrity attorney, or maybe both. So Gloria Allred is the round 2 choice of Hoppy. My round 2 choice will be none other than, I'm going to take Jake Brigance. I think Jake Brigance from A Time to Kill, the Grisham novel, great lawyer who is battling so much more than just a legal battle, battling racism and trying to bring good into a world where there was a lot of bad, and do the right thing when doing the wrong thing would have been way easier. So, I mean, simply not fighting that tough fight would have been easy, but I think a sign of a great lawyer is one who's willing to take on a fight that is, it's difficult. And like we talked when we had, we were talking recently to a guest and saying that the only causes worth fighting for are the lost causes. And I like Jake Brigance and his ability to fight for those lost causes at all cost. So, and plus he won. So I like the fact that he won. Hopefully that doesn't spoil the book or the movie for you. 877-943-9673. You can give us a call now, live and local. So to recap, round 2, Yumiko with her first pick, one of the Farahs. Then we had Jay Sokolov, Joe Weaver's round 2 pick, Peter the Intern taking Heather Dunbar from House of Cards. That was a bit of a drop off, Peter, going from Thomas Jefferson to Heather Dunbar. Nothing against Heather, though. And then Hoppy's pick, Gloria Allred, and my pick being Jake Brigance. So before we do round 3, we got some calls queued up. If you want to be part of this show, 877-943-9673. All right, let's go to Tampa and let's talk to Donna. Donna, welcome to the show.
Oh, hey, first of all, I'd like to welcome Hoppy. I was so worried about him and really, really missed him. So I'm glad he's found a new home.
So you knew Hoppy from another radio stint? What station were you listening on that you knew?
On the Bone.
When Hoppy was on the Bone, that's right.
Yes.
Well,
And
Hoppy
we
is.
loved him, and he all of a sudden he was gone, and we didn't know really what happened.
Well, I guarantee you right now, Donna, you are buoying Hoppy and giving him the best Saturday morning ever. Just the fact that you remembered him and sent those kind words. So thank you for saying that about Hoppy. We're glad to have him as part of the team here. So Donna, how can we help you?
I have a friend that's a snowbird and is getting ready to come down for, he spends the winter down here in Florida and the summer up north. And all of his will and all of his stuff is up north. However, he would like to, if he ever becomes, he's like 85, but very healthy. And if he should ever suddenly become incapacitated or get unhealthy, if he could have it set up in some kind of trust or something where somebody would, buy him a condo, and instead of going to a nursing home, maybe hire nurses or hire people to come take care of him.
So what state is his residency? I know you said he's a bit of a snowbird, but usually snowbirds are anchored in one of two. So
in Minnesota.
So if he's everything's in Minnesota.
Up there. He's a resident, and his family and everything live up there.
I think he actually has something in common then with Liberty and Bell, the two turkeys that were pardoned. If I'm not mistaken, during my show prep, Donna, I think they're actually from Minnesota. So the short answer is it's going to come down to his residency. It sounds like he's a Minnesota resident, so he would need to initiate this with a Minnesota attorney. If he ever switches to Florida, then my answer would obviously shift. And from a Florida resident perspective, oftentimes it's anchoring down here with a good simple trust model oftentimes, and then funding the various properties in the various states into that trust to bypass probate in those various states. But in light of the fact that he's a Minnesota resident, I think that's the conversation he needs to have with a licensed Minnesota attorney.
Okay, so he wouldn't need a Florida attorney too to
Well, I
set
definitely
up buying the
think, yeah,
condo?
I definitely think he'll need help with the Florida attorney if they create some sort of, the Minnesota Council recommends creating some sort of Minnesota trust, and they need funding into the trust of Florida real property. Yeah, I think you need a licensed Florida attorney for that component of it. So yes, he'll need a Florida attorney, but as far as who's going to be taking the lead on this estate plan, it needs to be an attorney licensed in the state of his residency.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Donna, thank you. And thank you again for your kind words about Hoppy, and you enjoy the rest of your Saturday.
Oh, you too.
All righty. 877-943-9673. That's your live and local number if you want to be part of today's show with your legal question or your fantasy lawyer draft pick. This is our first ever Attorney Patrick Smith Show fantasy draft. Today we're doing lawyers. So draft your favorite lawyer. Who would you pick? Who would you want on your legal team? Irene in Sarasota has a choice. So let's go to Irene. Irene, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Fine, thank you.
So,
and by the way, Patrick, you're top on the list too. But I thought first of Jay Sekulow of the ACLJ, the American Center for Law and Justice. Our freedom to love God and serve God has been harmed, especially in these days. And he has done so much for everyone, Christians, Jews, even Muslims. He's helped people to be able to honor God.
well,
And
and actually, I'm going back now and I'm rereading Joe's, and this is probably my interpretation of Joe's handwriting. I think that was actually his pick, was Jay Sekulow. So I believe that is instead of Sokolov. So yes, I'm getting the thumbs up. So yes, that was in fact. So we'll amend his round 2 pick. So you actually are in great company there with Joe Weaver, also picking Jay Sekulow.
yes, and because he's been doing this for years, they didn't get paid. They worked really hard, and just like you do. And we really appreciate you being here. God bless you.
Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate you calling into the show and your excellent choice and your fantasy draft and your kind words at the top of the call there, Irene. I appreciate that too. Thank you.
Thank you.
All
Have
righty.
a blessed day.
You
Have
too.
a blessed year.
Oh, God bless
Thank
you.
you.
Bye-bye. 877-943-9673. So we're starting round 3. My round 3 pick is probably going to be the most controversial pick of my draft because I'm going to take Andy Taylor from the Andy Griffith Show. Now, a lot of you are about to say, well, he wasn't a lawyer. Right. But if you watched the show, he was the sheriff. And Peter the intern, do you ever watch the Andy Griffith Show? Okay, so when you watch the show, he had a placard on his desk that said sheriff on one side. When he turned it around, it said on the other side, justice of the peace. So in a way, kind of a default lawyer position, even though he may not have had an actual law license, he was definitely serving as an officer of the law in the sheriff's capacity. So I'm gonna flirt with the boundaries of the loosest interpretations, and this will probably set off some controversy. And it's definitely an opportunity to remind people that the unauthorized practice of law is not permitted in the state of Florida, despite what your neighbor with their Google search engine thinks. You want to always talk to an accredited and licensed attorney, but I'm picking Andy Taylor, because of the fact that he was the gunless sheriff, and I think we need a lot of that common sense in the legal world, where it's not always about coming out guns blazing, and sometimes it's just about using good common sense and realizing that sometimes in situations there doesn't have to be a winner and a loser. Both parties can win if you use a little common sense. And I think that was the beauty of the character of Andy Taylor. You don't always need a gun, but then you would see those episodes where he wasn't afraid to get his firearm. And, you would always hear that famous catchphrase, Barney, get your bullet. There was a time when you would need that, but there was also this measured sort of calculation as to when it was appropriate. In other words, it's not every case, not every matter requires the same level of force. So with my round 3 pick, I'm going to pick Andy Griffith portraying Andy Taylor on the Andy Griffith Show. So Hoppy's round 3 pick, Lionel Hutz from The Simpsons Yeah. Again, it's like he just said most controversial picks of all time. All right, Peter the intern, your round 3 pick.
Nick Kratzenbach.
Who is Nick Kratzenbach?
He was the Attorney General underneath Lyndon V. Johnson. Fought for civil rights. He's famously, I guess not famously enough if you don't know, but he was at the, let me see, what is it called? The standing off at Alabama University when the governor blocked the college doors underneath desegregation, and the U.S. Attorney General went and tried to convince him to leave and ended up doing that successfully.
All right. So what Hoppy's list does in terms of controversy, your list does in terms of obscurity. Because I feel like you started off strong with Thomas Jefferson. Everyone knows the name. Then we got a little obscure with Heather Dunbar, a character from House of Cards. And then you just fell into the void. And you pick an attorney general under Lyndon Johnson.
Who didn't have a Juris Doctor. He had an LLB from Yale.
Fine. But I'm looking forward to your round 4 pick. How much deeper and obscure can we be in this pick? All right. So Nick Kratzenbach. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So that leads to our pick from Joe Weaver, his round 3 pick. And I actually had this on my list and I gave it to you since you're not mic'd up and you couldn't change, but Abraham Lincoln definitely deserves to be on the list. Obviously what he did with ending slavery and holding the country together during the Civil War, and his abilities as a lawyer. But one of my favorite things to do is to go back and read or listen to the Lincoln Douglas debates. Because if you ever want to whitewash politics and think that it was all pristine and proper, go back and listen to those debates and then tell me how today's politicians can be vile. Yeah, go back. It's raw, folks. And it reminds you what, politics can be about when it gets down to the nitty gritty. So the choice for Joe Weaver for round 3 is going to be Abraham Lincoln. All right. And that leads us to our next pick, which is Yumiko. Yumiko, which personal injury attorney are we picking this time?
Fran Hosh.
So you did like a search of just personal injury attorneys, did you not?
I did.
Okay. So recapping round 3, Fran Hosh, Yumiko's pick, Abraham Lincoln, Joe Weaver's pick. Say your pick again, Peter the intern.
Nicholas Kratzenbach.
The Attorney General under Lyndon Johnson, Lionel Hutz from Hoppy, and then my choice to kick off that round was Andy Taylor. 877-943-9673 to be part of today's show. This is the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. I'm your host, Attorney Patrick Smith. We're doing our first ever fantasy draft, and we're doing a fantasy draft of your favorite lawyer, fictional, non-fictional. It can be any lawyer, and we're playing kind of loose and fast with the definition of lawyer or officer of the law. So definitely pushing the outer limits of that with my selection of Andy Taylor from the Andy Griffith Show this last round. 877-943-9673 to be part of today's show. If you want to call in with your pick or legal question, to reach me at the office during the week, again, that office line, 877-754-6764. The toll-free office line to schedule in Sun City Center, Clearwater, Sarasota, or to book us for your club or group to come out and do a complimentary speaking engagement, 877-754-6764. All right, next we're going to go to T in Sarasota. T, is that right? Is that your name?
My first name is so long. Everybody calls me T, including Bill Buckley. I call him every so often. He's a great guy. And hey, congratulations on where you're at. Joe Pippin, I used to call him once in a while. And what a great guy. And you're filling some big shoes. But so far, I think you're doing a fine job.
Well, T, I appreciate your kind words. How can we help you today?
There's a few things. John Morgan, I don't think so. If you ever want to check him out on YouTube talking about Sheriff Knight years ago, it was actually on several of the local news channels. It's hilarious. That's all I'm going to say. It is hilarious. You're going to find the video, and you'll have quite a different attitude about John Morgan. I mean, I think you know what I'm talking about. I'm not sure.
Well, I didn't pick him, for the record. This was Yumiko, the producer, so she's here if you want to take it up with her. As far as she just did personal injury row when but I got to give her credit. At least she had a theme. I mean, you have Peter the intern going into the deepest, darkest recesses of the obscure, and you have Hoppy who's just making the biggest splash possible with picking the most controversial choices of all time. And wait till you see who he picked next.
Morgan's commercials drive me nuts, especially with Mrs. Moore or whatever her name is. So, or if she wants everything in excess, it's like, what the heck is this? Anyway, I saw, it's a long story, but up north, over 20 years ago, Alan Dershowitz with a guy named Richard Egbert in a trial having to do with another defense lawyer who was defending an organized crime guy. And the federal government tried to destroy this lawyer for defending the organized crime guy. And what Alan Dershowitz did to defend him and Richard Egbert was unbelievable. I felt like I was inside a Perry Mason episode, and they defended him successfully. And it was really, really a dangerous case because it kind of like in the balance was whether or not, and this guy is a bad guy, like the criminal guy, he was a bad guy, but the lawyer wasn't a bad guy.
Well, he was allegedly a bad guy.
Well, that's true. Well said. Well said. But he had a long track record of convictions. He was not one of our better citizens. Let's put it that way. And the bottom line was that day, you know, the balance of justice was served. And I was so happy to see that. I don't like what I'm seeing right now, especially on a national level. It's got me extremely worried. But Alan Dershowitz, if I ever needed a lawyer, it would be Alan. Even though I'm a Christian conservative and he's a liberal, he's an honest liberal, if there's such a thing. And I think he's absolutely brilliant. On a local level, there were two lawyers here in Sarasota. One of them is dealing with parents who are very ill, and she's a wonderful lady, Susan Gregory. And another one, Scott Miller. These guys are top-notch local people. They're impeccable. I've dealt with both of them. They're really, really fine. But I'd like to deal with you as far as getting a living trust versus a will. This living trust versus a will stuff is way over my head. I don't understand why a living trust is so safe and a will is so dangerous, but I'm sure you'll explain that to me. Where is your office in Sarasota?
So it's actually Lakewood Ranch right off University. And to answer your question, the fundamental distinction between a will and a trust and the most optimal advantages can be demonstrated by understanding the definition of probate. So probate is the transfer of assets from a deceased person's name to the appropriate beneficiary. So fundamentally speaking, T, if you can take that deceased person's name out of the equation, then by definition, you've avoided probate. This is where the concept of the living trust comes in. It's a living entity separate from you, like a safe. You can put things in, take things out, do whatever you want to do. And then at the end of the day, when you enter eternity, you now have a conveyance from your living trust to living beneficiaries. There's no deceased person's name involved, so there's no need for a probate for anything in the trust because nothing's in that deceased person's name and needing to be court ordered to the beneficiaries. That's the 30-second Reader's Digest on wills versus trust.
When are you ever at the Lakewood Ranch office?
Yeah, I'll be there Tuesday, I think.
I have a tough situation at home. Hard for me to even get out of here, unless a nurse comes by for one of my family.
Well, we have conference call appointments available as well for those who have ambulatory difficulties, T. So just give the office a call, and they'll get you set up with an appointment that works for you, okay?
I definitely will. And I have to say, like, seriously, I really enjoy your show. I enjoy by the way, Andy Griffin was a lawyer. He was Matlock, wasn't he?
Well, that was another pick I had, and I was waiting for someone else to pick. But my character that I knew him more for was watching him with my dad Andy Griffith show. I mean, my dad and I have this running joke. Anytime it's on, we'll call or text the other and say, hey, a new one's on we haven't seen before, because we've seen them all 100 times. But yeah, I was waiting for someone. And there's also, I'm surprised no one's picked Perry Mason. Yeah, I mean, that's another great famous lawyer from TV. So yeah, but I agree with you on Alan Dershowitz. Excellent attorney, but also more than attorney, I think of him as a professor. I mean, he's a great legal educator, constitutional scholar. So definitely, and the word you were looking for, I think, T, was principled. He knows what he believes, why he believes it, and he's happy to tell you. He doesn't obscure that fact in any way. So yeah, you got to respect a guy who knows why he believes what he believes. So T, we appreciate you calling in, and thank you again for all your kind words.
Hey, God bless you. God bless you, and good luck to you.
Thank you, T. All right, 877-943-9673, 877-943-9673. All right, before we go to Joanne, we're going to go to, is it Mukesh in Mineola? Mukesh, welcome to the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. How are you today?
Yes, excuse me. Yes, sir. I'm doing okay. The reason I called, I live within 2 miles from your Citrus Tower office. and we had made a will for all the required document while my wife was living in 2016. And you had a conference call with my daughter in Air Force. She's a lawyer, and now she's a colonel. And my wife passed away since then, and she advised me to change to revise the will, and also because my property, everything was done nicely after whatever you have, all these documents anyway. So now I have to upgrade this thing, and then my house is in very close to Lake Mineola. I'm Lake Mineola High School, which is part of the Claremont area also. Anyway, so I wanted to. I find out that this other way about my house, estate deed. If so, this way, if I'm sick or anything or something happened to me, we already have those documents done. But now I'm only one, so my wife's no longer on my property estate. So there's another way to do it is the estate deed, which is called the Lady Bird deed. And we don't have any problem with my son and daughter. They are doing very well, much better than ever. So my daughter recommended because she's too far, and my son is in very close to Tampa now. So it is easy for them. So I wanted to have the paper done, and I came to your office 2-3 months back, and then you called me while I was driving, and I'm 70. I will be very close to 79. And I problem. We don't normally. I don't pick up the phone while I'm driving. So particularly, it was not a divided road there, like near your office over there. So I did not call, and I left the message, and so far nobody called. So I wanted to find out what day you are coming and how can I make appointment at the Citrus Tower office.
Well, the most concerning thing there is we return all calls fastidiously. So I'm going to have them check with my office manager, search by your phone number, and see when that call came in, Mukesh. But you can give the office a call on Monday, and they'll tell you what I have available. I'm in Claremont every week, multiple days. So you can always reach me there. But again, that office line, 877-754 6764. And I'm sorry about your wife, and tell your daughter thank you for her service to our nation as a full bird colonel now. That's most impressive. Just give the office a call, and if you leave a message for me, I'll call you back, and we'll make sure to get you on the calendar and get you squared away with everything you need, Mukesh.
You did leave a message, but there was no phone call to reply because you had an unlisted number. He told me, and there's no way I can get in touch because I was driving. And unfortunately, if I would have stayed in a parking lot about 5 minutes more, I was in a parking lot and I started driving.
Well, first of all, I applaud your responsible driving, Mukesh. And secondly, the issue has been resolved now. So the number will not come up a blocked number any longer. So you won't have that issue. But Mukesh, just reach out on Monday and we'll make sure you get in touch with me and get in and get what you need to have some peace of mind. Okay. And again, I'm so sorry about your wife.
Okay, thank you. That's the life. And she passed away at the end of December.
How many years were you married, Mukesh?
Yeah, we married about exactly 45 years. We celebrated November 21st, but our anniversary. And then she had a cancer all of a sudden, and the cancer spread throughout the body.
I'm sorry to hear that. I'll say a prayer for all you guys, and Mukesh, we'll look forward to seeing you soon, okay?
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right, this is the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. I'm your host, Attorney Patrick Smith. If you want to schedule your complimentary consultation, 877-754-6764. 877-754-6764. Made me feel better the fact that he said, "Oh, you called back." Okay, good. So because we are very fastidious about returning phone calls at the office, my staff knows that is the number one rule. All calls get returned promptly. So 877-754-6764. If you want to reach out and schedule your complimentary estate planning consultation with me, yours truly, Attorney Patrick Smith, in the Sarasota, Sun City Center, Clearwater, Claremont office, any of those locations, one easy toll-free number, 877-754-6764. Round 4 of our fantasy lawyer draft. Yumiko, you're kicking it off with so I'm presuming, is it another personal injury attorney?
It is.
Okay. So you're consistent. I applaud that. Go ahead.
Anajar from Anajar and Levine.
I was going to ask if that was going to be the next one because that was the only one you had, Mitch. So Anajar and Levine, which is, again, 2 lawyers, but at this point, you've pretty much, blazed your own trail there, Yumiko. All righty. Number 2 this round will be Joe Weaver. And Joe picked Dan Fielding. Great choice, Night Court. Night Court selection. You could have picked anyone from that show. Harry would have been a great choice as well, but Dan Fielding, he was the public defender, if I'm not mistaken, in Night Court. So Dan Fielding will be that choice. And then Peter the Intern, you're up next.
I'm picking Saul Goodman from Better Call Saul.
Great
Joe
choice.
Likes that one.
I could hear that all the way from the soundproof glass. Yeah. Saul Goodman from Better Call Saul. And before you ask, no, I don't watch the show. I don't.
So good.
I finally started watching Suits. Enough people told me about it. And no, Harvey Specter's not on my list. Jessica Pearson almost made my list. She's a fantastic character. All righty. So Dan Fielding and then Saul Goodman was Peter the Intern's. Hoppy's next choice was actually already taken because it was Abe Lincoln, but Abe Lincoln's been taken. So his next list now, and this is the one, Robert Kardashian. When Joe Weaver picked Johnny Cochran, I said, who is going to pick Robert Kardashian? Of course, sort of the patriarch of the Kardashians, but also part of O.J. Simpson's famous Dream legal team. So Robert Kardashian. My choice, I'm going to go Atticus Finch. I think that Atticus Finch from To Kill a Mockingbird, again, a great lawyer who was battling bigger issues than just legal issues, really taking on societal issues, social justice issues, which is something very near and dear to my heart. So a very fantastic sort of overall message about humanity. And I think that's what lawyers need to bring to their practice. All right, we're going to do a rapid fire round. We got a bunch of calls to blaze through. All right, Joanne in Sarasota. Joanne, thanks for calling in. How can we help you today?
Oh, other than yourself and Atticus, I like Trey Gowdy, and he's a real man, real person on Fox. Have you ever seen
Trey Gowdy? And I appreciate your kind words drafting me. My own producer didn't even draft me. Okay, I didn't even make the top 5 list. So Joanne, I treasure that.
You would. You remind me of Trey.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you, Joanne. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. All right. Next, we're going to John in Largo. John, who's your pick?
Well, I got 3 to catch up if I can.
Go ahead, John.
My first one was going to be Robert Kardashian, but since Hobby got him before I did, my first one is going to be Rudy Baylor.
Rudy Baylor. Who's Rudy Baylor?
He represented the young man in Memphis, Tennessee in that movie with Matt Damon. Matt Damon was the lawyer.
Oh, the Rainmaker.
The Rainmaker.
Okay. All right. Who's your last choice, John? Because I got to hop off and get to the last caller.
Hillary Clinton.
Hillary Clinton. I wish we had more time to unpack that. And I mean, I agree with you. Fantastic stateswoman, Secretary of State. Her record as a stateswoman, most impressive. And the only thing, the strike against her is that I feel like she's always in her husband's shadow because she's always. Yeah, I mean, Bill Clinton's just Bill Clinton. So, yep. What were you going to say, John?
Quick question.
Yep.
What do you get when you cross a crooked divorce lawyer?
Hold on. Is this clean for broadcast, John?
It's
okay.
Clean.
All right.
It's clean.
So go ahead.
What do you get when you cross a crooked divorce lawyer and a crooked politician?
I give up. What do you get?
Chelsea Clinton.
Okay. Wow. Well, it was clean at least. So, all righty, folks. We'll give out John's personal contact information if you want to give him your thoughts on that joke. John, we appreciate you calling in. Thanks so much. Harper and Lutz. Harper, how can we help you?
Yes, my pick would be Mark Levin, Life, Liberty, and Levin.
All right. Well, we appreciate you listening to the show, and thanks for. And I love that you called in with that. With your name's Harper, and my pick was Atticus Finch. All right. So my Gators play today. They're playing for more than just pride today, folks. They're playing for bowl eligibility. They don't win this one. They don't go to a bowl game for the first time since 2014. So both teams playing backup quarterbacks. It's at home. I got the Gators in a close one. I'm going to take the Gators 35, Florida State. I'm going to say 33. I think it's going to be an eker, and I think it's Florida State loses it wide right. So this is the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. God bless. Stay safe.